Welcome back to another exciting episode of Mr. Bloom's Bio, hosted by the one and only Mr. Bloom. Let's get started on this review. We've got energy, reaction basics, and ATP that we are going to need to review. Ooh, my nose itches. So how many types of energy are there? Lots of different types. Radiant from the sun, thermal from fires and such like that, light, potential, chemical, kinetic, many different forms of energy that is used in our world. Essentially, when are these types of energies used? There is not a comprehensive list on this. There are many, many examples. So something's happening, you're doing something, whatever, energy is being used. Does energy ever disappear? Law of conservation of energy states energy cannot be created or destroyed. Instead, it changes forms or transforms into other types of energy. So physical to chemical, something, okay, it cannot be destroyed. Law of conservation of matter states that matter cannot be created or destroyed. Enzymes are proteins. Okay? They act as a catalyst that is going to reduce activation energy, so it's going to bring it down. Okay, that activation energy while it speeds up the reaction. Okay, so it is a catalyst, a substance that speeds up a chemical reaction. What biomolecule are enzymes? They are proteins. You don't remember what biomolecules are? Those are the four macromolecules, your carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. Your reactions, when you look at them, the material and substances that go into these reactions is called a reactant. That is everything to the left side of the arrow. Your products, everything on the right side of the arrow, those are what is essentially being made or happening or taking place, the end result of the reaction itself. Then we get into the basics of ATP, that energy that we talked about a lot when we were looking at your passive and active transport. That active transport that requires energy for substances to move across or against the gradient. Okay, so ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. Tri meaning three phosphates. So on an ATP molecule, you have three phosphate groups that are bonded together. It is one of the principal chemical compounds that living things use to store and release energy. ATP supplies energy to the cell for its functions. It is a usable form of energy for the cell. ATP is an energy carrier. So you have three parts to an ATP molecule. Your adenine, your ribose, which ribose is a sugar, and your three phosphate groups, as I mentioned before. Whereas ATP produced in a cell, hopefully all of you remember that the mitochondria is considered the powerhouse of the cell. So this is where ATP is created, where it's produced. Okay. It's used by all types of cells as their basic energy source. When energy is released, a phosphate is removed. So that phosphate to phosphate bond between the second and third groups of phosphates, that bond is broken. Those bonds are high energy bonds. So when one of them is broken, energy at that point is released for the cell. That ATP then turns into ADP, so adenosine diphosphate. So now there are two different phosphates, similar to ATP, but one less phosphate. Your cycle, okay, you have ATP, 3 phosphate groups. Phosphate is removed, energy is released for cell functions. Then it, as we've already mentioned, it becomes ADP. Energy from breakdown of molecules. So when we go through these processes that we're going to be talking about later, your cellular respiration, for example, energy from breakdown of molecules is going to add a phosphate back to it, and then you're going to have that ATP again. So then you have that energy that is stored at its at the way that it wants to be stored, with 3 phosphate groups holding that energy. And then we get to number 9. I believe it's already number 9 when we talk about ATP synthase. We're looking at ASE. It is an enzyme. Okay, so your ATP synthase is an enzyme that makes ATP molecules. Okay, and that is the end of my slide or note review for 1 through 9 today.